The twin moons of Zorath shone brightly in the violet sky, casting a soft glow over the palace gardens. Queen Illyra stood on the royal balcony, her heart heavy with unease. Something felt wrong. The wind carried a strange silence, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Her daughter, Princess Lyara, had not returned to her chambers after evening lessons. Illyra's instincts, honed over centuries of ruling her people, screamed danger. The palace halls, usually alive with laughter and music, were eerily quiet. Guards patrolled with tense steps, eyes darting nervously. Illyra called out for her daughter, but only the echo of her voice answered back. Panic gripped her chest like a cold hand. Lyara, her beloved child, her reason for every heartbeat, was missing. Moments later, a scout arrived, breathless and wide-eyed. "Your Majesty?" "The Krathians," he stammered. They attacked. They took Princess Lyara." Illyra's world shattered. The Krathians, notorious raiders from the neighboring galaxy, had struck under the cover of night, sneaking past the palace defenses. Her mind raced as she imagined her daughter trapped, frightened, perhaps even hurt. The queen's usual calm, commanding presence faltered, replaced by raw, desperate fear. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. How could this happen? Every precaution, every protective measure she had ordered, had failed, far away. On the blue planet humans called Earth, a young warrior named Kale was preparing for a mission unlike any other. He had been trained for years in strategy, combat, and survival, but nothing could truly prepare him for stepping into the unknown of alien worlds. Yet when the distress call reached him, a faint, trembling signal transmitted across the star scale felt a surge of determination he could not ignore. A child, a princess, was in danger, and he would go. Humans were known for many things, but courage, even in the face of impossible odds, was one trait Kale carried proudly. The night on Zorath was still dark and tense as Illyra gathered her council. "We will not let them take her," she said, voice trembling but firm. "Send our fastest ships. Call every capable warrior. We will find Lyara, no matter the cost." Her words carried authority, but inside, her heart was heavy with fear. She knew the Krathians were cunning and ruthless. They would not release her daughter without a fight. Inside the Krathian stronghold, Lyara huddled in a dim cell. Her long silvery hair clung to her face as she pressed her small body against the cold floor. Tears blurred her vision. "Mom, please," she whispered, her voice cracking. The air smelled of smoke and metal, the scent of war and captivity. Every shadow seemed alive with danger, every sound a threat. She had never felt so helpless in her life. But somewhere deep inside, a spark of hope remained. Someone would come. Someone had to. Back on Earth, Kale adjusted his equipment and checked the coordinates again. The signal was faint, distorted by the vast distances of space, but he could feel its urgency. This was more than a mission. This was a life that depended on him. Kale's chest tightened, not with fear, but with a strange sense of purpose. Humans had a reputation among some alien species for being fragile, limited, easy to underestimate. But Kale knew better. Humans had heart, resilience, and bravery that could surpass the stars themselves. Meanwhile, Illyra refused to rest. She walked the palace corridors, her mind filled with memories of Lyra's laughter, her tiny hands clutching hers as they walked in the royal gardens. Every memory fueled her determination. She would not lose her daughter. And if the Krathians thought they could outsmart the Queen of Zorath, they were gravely mistaken. As the night deepened, the two threads of fate moved closer together. One was a terrified but determined princess, trapped in alien chains. The other was a human warrior, guided by courage, hope, and a signal that promised the chance to save a life. And somewhere in the shadows, the Krathians plotted their next move, unaware that a force beyond their understanding was already on its way. In that moment, As the moons cast a gentle silver light over the planet, the story of bravery, hope, and the meeting of worlds quietly began. And though Queen Illyra could not know it yet, a human hero was about to enter Zoreth's history and change the fate of her family forever. Kale stepped through the shimmering teleportation gate, and the world of Zoreth unfolded before him. Jagged rocks stretched toward the violet sky, and strange glowing plants lined the edges of the vast plains. The air was thick, almost electric, with energy he had never felt on Earth. Kale adjusted his armor, gripping his sword tightly. Every step forward was a step into danger, yet his resolve never wavered. The signal had led him here, and he would not fail. Alien soldiers noticed him immediately. Their eyes widened in surprise at the sight of a human alone figure standing against their world's landscape. A human, one whispered to another. Here, humans were rare in the galaxy, and they were not supposed to survive in hostile territories like Zorath. Most aliens assumed humans were weak, fragile, and unprepared for interstellar challenges. But Kale's presence alone already challenged that belief. He moved with confidence, scanning the horizon, aware that every second matted dot deep within the Krathian stronghold. Lyra's situation grew more desperate. Her wrists were sore from the tight bindings, her body trembling from exhaustion. Her mind raced with fear. She did not know who or what might come to save her. She had always been brave in her lessons and training, but this was different. This was real danger. The Krathians' jeers echoed down the stone halls as they celebrated their capture. "No one will save you," one sneered, his voice harsh and mocking. "Your world is weak, and you are alone." But then, faintly, she heard it, a sound she had almost stopped believing in, the clash of combat, the metallic ring of weapons, footsteps moving with purpose, and the unmistakable sound of someone who refused to be afraid. Her heart leaped. Could it be? Someone was coming for her? Her blue eyes shone with renewed hope as she strained to listen. Kale had already begun his approach to the stronghold. He moved silently, studying the patrol routes and the weak points in the Krathians' defenses. He had no allies here, no reinforcements, yet he carried something far stronger than numbers: determination. Each human heartbeat, each decision made with courage, was a weapon. Kale knew he could face the odds if he trusted his instincts. The closer he came, the more Kale saw the devastation left behind by the Krathian raid. Burned-out vehicles, shattered buildings, and scorch marks on the ground told a story of chaos and destruction. But he did not falter. In fact, the sight only strengthened his resolve. Every step forward was a promise. He would not let fear dictate the outcome. Inside the stronghold, Lyra's hope grew as she sensed movement. Someone was inside, moving fast, clearing the guards one by one. She could hear it, metal striking metal, the muffled grunts of combatants. She had never imagined a human could be so strong. And yet, instinctively, she knew this was no ordinary warrior. This was someone extraordinary. Someone brave enough to cross worlds to save her. Kale paused briefly at a vantage point, surveying the layout of the stronghold. His sharp eyes caught the faint glow of Lyra's distress beacon, still flickering, weakly from inside a tower chamber. "There you are," he murmured under his breath, a small smile breaking across his serious face. He tightened his grip on his sword. Nothing would stop him now. The first guards appeared in his path. Kale moved like lightning, swift and precise. His training on Earth had prepared him for battle, but Zorath demanded Moran adaptability to alien technology, alien strength, and alien cunning. Kale used every skill he had, turning each strike into a dance of survival. The guards fell back, astonished at his speed and fearlessness. Back in her cell, Lyra's pulse raced. She pressed herself against the wall, eyes wide, listening as the sounds of combat drew nearer. She dared to hope. "Someone is coming. Someone strong. Someone human," she whispered. Tears blurred her vision, but this time they were not just tears of fear, they were tears of relief. Kale advanced steadily, his mind focused only on one thing, finding Liara and bringing her to safety. In that moment, the human warrior became more than a stranger from a distant world. He became hope, courage, and the impossible made real. The first spark of a bond, unseen yet powerful, began to form between the human and the princess. As Kale reached the outer doors of the chamber where Liara was held, he took a deep breath, steeling himself. Whatever awaited him inside, he knew. He would not turn back. For this child, for this mission, he was ready to defy the odds. And somewhere, deep inside Liara, a small voice whispered, "I will be saved. I must be saved." The moment of reunion, the first step of hope, was only seconds away. Kale's boots echoed softly against the cold metal floors of the Krathian stronghold. Every corridor twisted like a maze, filled with shadows and danger. The human warrior's senses were alert. Every sound, every movement, every faint vibration in the walls could be an enemy waiting to strike. Yet he moved forward with steady, determined steps, guided by the faint flicker of Liara's distress beacon. Liara, trapped in the dim chamber, hugged herself tightly. She could hear the clashing of metal, the shouts of Krathians, and the unmistakable sound of someone fighting with purpose. Hope swelled inside her chest. Could it really be true? Could someone have come all this way across the stars to save her? Her fingers itched to touch the source of the hope she felt, but she remained behind the bars, unsure if she could even move fast enough to reach it. Suddenly, the first wave of Krathian guards appeared around the corner. They snarled, their elongated fangs flashing in the dim light. "A human! How dare you set foot here?" Their commander roared. The soldiers surged forward, confident that a lone human could not survive against them. Most species underestimated humans, thinking them fragile, clumsy, and limited. Kale, however, had been trained for impossible odds. And tonight, he would prove that human courage could match or even surpass alien power. With a swift, fluid motion, Kale drew his sword. The first guard lunged, claws extended, but Kale sidestepped effortlessly, letting the momentum of the attack carry the Krathian into a wall. He struck back with precision, his blade cutting a clean line through the enemy's armor. The second guard attacked from the side, but Kale's movements were too fast. He ducked, rolled, and delivered a precise strike that sent the alien sprawling. Each motion was a dance of life and death, powered by determination and the human instinct to survive and protect. Inside her cell, Liara pressed herself against the wall, eyes wide as she watched shadows move outside. She could sense him, her savior, fighting with a skill she had never imagined. Each clash of metal, each grunt of exertion, made her pulse race. A strange warmth filled her heart, a mixture of fear, awe, and relief. "He's amazing," she whispered under her breath. "He's really coming for me." The Krathians were surprised. "How can one human be so strong?" one muttered, barely dodging a strike. Kale's speed, precision, and courage defied their expectations. They had faced countless enemies before, but none like this unpredictable force, driven not by alien power, but by sheer will and determination. Each movement he made was calculated, yet instinctive. Every guard that tried to stop him found themselves outmatched. As Kale advanced deeper into the stronghold, the hallways grew narrower, forcing him to face the guards more directly. His breathing was controlled, every strike deliberate. He used the environment to his advantage, knocking over crates, creating barriers, and moving with agility that belied his human form. The Krathians pressed harder, using their alien strength and weapons, but Kale refused to falter. Fear had no place in his mind. All that mattered was Liara's safety. Liara watched, tears forming in her eyes, as the door to her chamber rattled under the force of Kale's strikes. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum. "Please, let him get to me," she whispered. praying silently, every nerve in her body straining with hope and worry. She could feel the presence of someone brave and determined, someone who would not stop until she was safe. Finally, the Krathian commander himself appeared, a massive figure clad in black armor, snarling with fury. "You dare challenge us?" he bellowed. Kale met his gaze calmly, gripping his sword tighter. This was the final obstacle before he could reach Liara. He did not hesitate. With every ounce of strength and skill, he engaged the commander, weaving, striking, and dodging in a battle that would decide the fate of a princess. Each strike echoed through the hall, but Kale's focus never wavered. He moved not just for himself, but for the child waiting, for the hope she had clung to in the darkness. And somewhere inside the chamber, Liara felt it, the promise of freedom growing closer with every heartbeat. She whispered, almost reverently, "I'll be safe soon. He's going to save me." The first clash had begun, and it was only the beginning. Kale's human courage and determination were about to face the full might of the Krathians. Yet even in the darkness, hope had found its champion. And for Liara, the sound of that battle was more beautiful than any music. It was the sound of a human heart fighting for hers. Brought him closer to Liara. The faint glow of her distress beacon flickered more steadily now, as if responding to his presence. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. The final door lay ahead, massive and reinforced, designed to hold even the strongest alien warriors. But Kale was not just any warrior. He was a humanist species known for daring, unpredictability, and courage that defied logic. Inside the chamber, Liara's eyes widened at the sudden commotion outside. The door shook violently, metal groaning under the force of Kale's efforts. She scrambled to her feet, her body trembling, and pressed herself against the back wall. Her heart raced with hope and disbelief. Could it really be true? Could a human have fought through the Krathian army, all alone, just to save her? Kale slammed his shoulder against the door, the metal buckling slightly. He gritted his teeth and delivered another forceful push, and finally, with a loud crack, the door gave way. He rushed inside without hesitation, sword drawn, eyes scanning for threats. And there she was, Liara, her blue-toned skin shimmering faintly in the dim light, eyes wide with fear and relief. "You're safe now," Kale said, his voice calm but firm, carrying the weight of reassurance. He moved quickly, cutting through the remaining Krathians with a combination of skill, speed, and raw determination. Each enemy that lunged at him was met with precise, controlled strikes. He protected Liara with every movement, every instinct, aware that one wrong step could cost her life. Liara's hands shook as Kale untangled the ropes that bound her wrists. Her tears fell freely now, streaming down her face as she realized she was no longer alone. I thought I was lost," she whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of fear and relief. Kale gave her a small, reassuring smile. "Not anymore," he said simply. "I'm here now. You're going home." The Krathians, enraged by their commander's defeat, regrouped and tried to trap them inside the chamber. But Kale's strategy was flawless. He moved with Liara beside him, using the environment to his advantage, sliding past obstacles, dodging blasts of alien energy, and striking with deadly precision. His human unpredictability gave them the upper hand. Every Krathian that attacked was met with a force they could not anticipate, a bravery they could not comprehend. Liara clung to Kale as they ran through the hallways, her trust in him absolute. She had been trained in diplomacy, combat, and etiquette. But nothing had prepared her for this, being saved by a human from a species she had only heard of in stories. And yet, there was no hesitation in her heart. He was her protector now, the one who had defied impossible odds to reach her. Finally, they reached a stairwell leading to the surface. Kale paused briefly to scan the area. He could see the faint outline of the palace courtyard in the distance, and he knew they were close to safety. "We're almost there," he whispered to Liara, squeezing her hand reassuringly. Her grip tightened in return, a silent acknowledgement of trust and gratitude as they emerged into the cool night air. Liara gasped, overwhelmed by the sight of her home in the distance. Her mother, Queen Ailira, was nowhere yet, but the palace guards were. Regrouping, moving toward them with cautious optimism. Lyra's tears now were of joy and relief, mingling with awe at the human who had fought through impossible odds to save her. Cale slowed his pace as they reached a safer distance from the Krathian stronghold. He glanced at Liara, ensuring she was unharmed. "You're safe," he repeated, more firmly this time. Lyra's voice trembled, but she managed to speak. "Thank you. I don't even know how to repay you." Cale shook his head. "No need," he said softly, knowing, "you're safe is enough." In that moment, Liara realized something extraordinary. Humans were not just fragile creatures from distant planets, as some had claimed. They possessed courage, heart, and determination that could stand against the fiercest enemies. And this human, Cale, had shown all of it in one night, as they made their way toward the palace. Liara felt a bond for Minja, bond not just of gratitude, but of trust, hope, and admiration. Cale had saved her life, but he had also given her something more. The knowledge that even in the darkest moments, courage could light the way. And somewhere, in the distance, the twin moons of Zorath shone down, bearing witness to the beginning of a story that would be remembered for generations. The story of a human warrior who defied the stars to save a princess, and the hope he brought to a world on the brink of despair. Cale and Liara had barely taken a few steps from the Krathian stronghold, when the distant hum of approaching ships and the clatter of alien boots reached their ears. The Krathians were not going to let their prize go so easily. Cale's jaw tightened. There was no time to rest. Every second counted. He glanced at Liara, whose wide eyes reflected both fear and determination. "Stay close to me," he commanded gently. She nodded, gripping his hand tightly, feeling the steadiness of his courage radiating into her own heart. The palace grounds stretched ahead, but they were not yet safe. The Krathians, relentless and merciless, advanced in waves, their weapons glowing menacingly in the moonlight. Cale adjusted his grip on his sword, scanning for the best path. He needed to get Liara to safety, and he would do it, no matter what. Humans were often underestimated, but Cale's strategy and resolve were more potent than the aliens could imagine. Every step they took, he calculated the risks, weaving through obstacles. Using the shadows to their advantage, Liara stumbled over the uneven ground, and Cale caught her instantly. "It's okay," he said calmly, his voice like a lifeline. "I've got you." Her heart surged with trust. She had been terrified, trapped, and alone, yet here she was, guided and protected by a human who had crossed worlds to save her. His courage was infectious, and her fear slowly melted into determination. She would run, she would fight, if it meant staying by his side. The first wave of Krathians charged, their eyes filled with anger and greed. Cale met them head-on, moving with agility and precision that defied his size. Each strike was calculated, each movement swift and deliberate. Liara watched in awe as the human defended them both with skill that was almost supernatural. These were not simple enemies. They were strong, cunning, and relentless, but Cale's fearlessness held them at bay. Even as they moved, Cale's mind raced with strategy. He could not just fight endlessly, he needed an escape. He spotted a narrow passage between two palace towers that led toward the hidden forest beyond. "This way," he shouted, tugging Liara along. Her small frame kept pace with his, driven by trust and hope. The chase was not only a test of strength but of will. Every second they gained brought them closer to freedom, yet danger lurked at every corner. Lyra's heart pounded as blaster fire zipped past her. Sparks flew from the walls, casting eerie shadows across her face. She pressed herself closer to Cale, relying on him to shield her. I can't believe it," she whispered between breaths. You really are amazing. Kale didn't answer. Words were useless here. His focus remained on the path ahead, the enemies closing in, and the promise of safety just within reach. The Krathian reinforcements grew closer. Their shouts echoed through the palace grounds, their weapons glowing brighter. Kale ducked behind a ruined statue, pulling Liara down with him. We can't let them surround us, he muttered, eyes scanning for openings. Then he spotted it. A low wall covered in alien foliage that led to a steep ramp down into the forest. It was risky, but it was their only chance. Together, they sprinted, dodging fire and leaping over debris. Kale's strength and speed carried them forward, and Liara's trust gave her courage. She had never moved so fast, never felt so alive, nor so certain of someone's protection. Kale's human heart, fueled by bravery and compassion, drove them both forward. The Krathians' shouts grew fainter as they approached the forest's edge. Finally, they burst into the dense woods, branches whipping past, moonlight filtering through the leaves. Kale slowed just enough to let Liara catch her breath, but not enough for the Krathians to regain ground. She gasped, overwhelmed by relief and awe. We made it, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thanks to you, Kale offered a small, tired smile. We're not safe yet, he reminded her gently, but his eyes held pride. He had protected her, fought countless enemies, and guided her through impossible odds. And now, with the forest as their shield, they finally had a chance to survive. Liora's heart was full not just of relief, but of admiration and gratitude. Humans, she realized, were not weak. They could be fearless, selfless, and capable of acts that even her most advanced alien warriors could not match. And this human, Kale, had become more than a rescuer. He had become a symbol of hope, courage, and an unbreakable spirit. As they ran deeper into the forest, the sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves and the steady beat of their own hearts. For Liara, each step was a reminder that she had been saved by something extraordinary. And for Kale, each step was a promise fulfilled. He would see her safe, no matter the cost. The night on Zorath had been dark, terrifying, and uncertain, but it had also revealed something beautiful. Courage could cross worlds. Hope could travel through danger. And even the smallest human could change the fate of an entire life. The first light of Zyra IX's dawn crept across the jagged cliffs, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Kale sat beside the Valari woman, still feeling the pulse of her blood within him. The adrenaline of the night's encounter had faded, replaced by a strange, comforting warmth. He had survived. Not just the danger, but the bond, the intensity, and the unknown power flowing through him. And for the first time, he understood something that humans had always carried quietly within themselves: endurance, resilience, and courage that refused to be broken. The Valari woman's golden eyes met his, glimmering with awe. You really survived it," she whispered. Her voice trembled with emotion, a mixture of fear, respect, and disbelief. I didn't think it was possible for a human to endure what I carry. I never imagined." She trailed off, struggling to find words that could capture the miracle she had witnessed. Kale shook his head gently, still catching his breath. "It wasn't a miracle," he said softly. "Humans survive because we have to. We endure, even when everything seems impossible. We rise when others would fall. That's what makes us human." The Valari's lips parted slightly, a soft exhale escaping her. "I can feel it," she admitted. "Your spirit. It's different. Stronger than I expected. Even in the midst of my blood, my memories, my pain. You held yourself together. You didn't break." Her golden eyes shone brighter as she continued. "You didn't just survive. You understood. You connected. You are remarkable." Kale smiled faintly, a quiet mixture of pride and humility. I didn't understand everything, he said. But I tried. I listened. I felt. That's what humans do. Even when we don't know what to expect, we step forward anyway. We survive. And sometimes, we rise above even our own limits. She studied him, awe and wonder written across her delicate features. Your kind, humans, they are stronger than I ever imagined. I have seen countless beings struggle, falter, and fail. But you faced everything, the fear, the pain, the unknown, and you endured. You rose. And in doing so, you've earned my respect, Kale. Kale felt warmth fill his chest. It was not just the physical warmth of survival, but the deeper warmth of connection. He had reached across the barrier of species, of fear, of the impossible, and forged something extraordinary. For the first time, he realized that humans were capable of more than strength or cleverness. They were capable of connection, trust, and courage that could stand against anything. You didn't just survive, the Valari woman said quietly, brushing a silvery strand of hair from her face. You proved something. To me, to yourself, to the universe. Humans are more than I ever thought possible. Kale nodded, feeling a quiet pride. We've survived worse, he said softly. We've endured famine, war, betrayal, and loss. We've faced things no one else could, and we've risen every time. That's what humans do. We endure, we rise, and sometimes we inspire others to do the same. The woman's golden eyes softened further, shimmering in the early light. Then, maybe the galaxy doesn't fully understand humans yet, she said, a smile tugging at her lips. They underestimate you, underestimate your spirit. But now I see it. You are extraordinary. Kale chuckled softly, the sound light and unburdened. We've always been underestimated, he said. But that doesn't stop us. We adapt, we survive, and we rise. For a long moment, they simply sat together, the cliffs stretching endlessly before them. The wind carried the scent of distant seas and alien flora, a quiet song of the universe itself. Kale felt every pulse of the Valari woman beside him, every heartbeat, every breath, every thought. And in that moment, he understood something fundamental. Connection was as powerful as strength. Courage could outshine fear, and humans, though small in the eyes of the galaxy, could endure what others deemed impossible. The woman reached out, touching his hand with delicate silver fingers. I trust you, she said softly, and I believe. Together, we can face anything. Whatever the galaxy throws at us, whatever dangers lie ahead, we will survive. We will rise. Kale squeezed her hand gently, a smile of quiet triumph spreading across his face. We already have, he said, and will continue. Humans endure, and when we rise, we do it with courage, heart, and connection. Always. The sun rose, higher, bathing them in golden light. And in that moment, on the cliffs of Zyronine, human and Valari were no longer separate. They were united, stronger together, and ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The sun rose fully over Zyronine, flooding the cliffs with golden light. The jagged rocks, the distant seas, and the twin moons fading in the sky seemed to pause in quiet admiration. Kale stood beside the Valari woman, still feeling the pulse of her blood within him, a reminder of the night that had changed everything. They had survived the impossible together, faced danger, and crossed boundaries that neither species had ever dared approach. And now, in the soft morning glow, Kale understood something profound. Humans were not just survivors, they were capable of inspiring awe, trust, and connection across the stars. The Valari woman turned to him, golden eyes reflecting warmth and wonder. I have felt many things in my life, she said softly, her voice almost trembling. I have felt fear, anger, joy, and pain. I have felt the weight of my people, the burdens I carry, and the battles I must fight. But I have never felt this trust, this connection, like I feel with you. She reached out, her silver fingers brushing against his arm, a gesture both tender and powerful. You are human, and yet, you have shown me something no Valari has ever shown me before. Kale swallowed hard, emotion tightening his throat. I didn't do it alone, he said quietly. It's not just about being human. It's about connection, trust, courage. You trusted me, I trusted you. That's what made this possible. That's what allowed us to survive. Her eyes softened further, shimmering in the morning light. Humans, she murmured, almost to herself. You are stronger than I imagined. Fragile, yes, but in ways that matter most, unbreakable. You endure not because you have no fear, but because you rise above it. You inspire even when no one else expects it. Kale smiled, a quiet, gentle smile filled with pride and humility. We've always survived, he said. From the smallest struggles to the greatest wars, humans endure. We adapt, we rise, and we connect with those who are willing to trust. That's our strength. For a moment, they both stood in silence, letting the gentle wind of Zyra brush against them. Kale could still feel her essence within him, the memories, the emotions, the warmth of trust and hope. And she, in turn, seemed to sense his resolve, his determination, and the quiet strength of a human who had faced the impossible and survived. I never thought a human could withstand what I carry, she admitted, voice low, almost reverent. I feared it would overwhelm you, destroy you. But you endured. You connected. You rose. Kale's hand found hers, holding it gently, a symbol of shared strength and understanding. We rise together, he said. Humans endure alone, but when we connect with others, when we trust, when we fight alongside someone, we become more than we ever thought possible. We survive, and sometimes, we inspire. Her golden eyes glimmered with emotion, tears catching the morning light. Then, the universe will never truly know what humans are capable of, she said, smiling softly. They will underestimate you, they will doubt you, and yet, you will rise anyway. You have shown me that. Kale felt a warmth spread through him, not just from the bond of her blood, but from the understanding of what it meant to be human, resilience, courage, and the unshakable drive to survive and to connect. Humans had faced the impossible countless times, and yet they always endured. And now, even on an alien world, under twin moons, their spirit had proven itself once more. The Valari woman stepped closer, her silver fingers entwining with his. Whatever comes next, she said softly, we face it together. You human have taught me that courage is not in strength alone, but in heart, trust, and the will to rise, even when the odds are impossible. Kale nodded, feeling the weight and beauty of her words. And you've taught me that connection is more powerful than fear, more enduring than pain. Together, we can face anything. Together, we rise. As the morning sun bathed them in golden light, human and Valari stood side by side, united by trust, courage, and a bond that transcended species. The cliffs of Zyra stretched before them, the universe beyond vast and unknown, but they were no longer afraid. They had survived the impossible, endured the unimaginable, and discovered the truth that humans had always carried quietly in their hearts. They endure, they rise, and sometimes, they inspire even the stars themselves.